welcome everyone to our Sunday meditation. While we're waiting for people to come on board and also to get rid of some of the energy that's been flying around this week, let's spend a few minutes meditating to two songs. It should let us shed all of the negative energy that you may have picked up and prepare yourself. It's a good thing. Take a breath. Relax. Well, I think I'd like to talk with you a little bit about what enlightenment is, at least my view of it, which may be much different than anyone else's view. I've spent most of my life, over 50 years now, trying to figure out. I'll be 75. I think it's been more than 70 years. My goodness. I had my first enlightening experience when I was 5, and I've been trying to figure it out ever since. This is an interesting world. My teacher said that this world was kind of unusual in that it was a cross. It's where all the heaven worlds and all the delightful worlds that exist, those levels of dimensions, and the hell worlds, all coming together in a single planet. So depending upon your state of mind and your location, you can be in heaven or you can be in hell. And it's even interesting that it's not just locations, it's people you're around, circumstances you're around. I asked my mother once, where was the best place that she liked to live? Because we did a lot of moving when I was a child. And she thought about it and she said, well, when we got along well financially, it seemed to be the best place to live. I thought that was an interesting thing because we had lived in many different places. But I've come to find out that if you get into a situation where you are financially hamstrung, you're not having a good time, even if you're living in the most beautiful place in the world. If you're surrounded by negativity and sense of lack and a sense of not having enough to even make ends meet, then the most beautiful place on earth can be hell to you. Likewise, places that aren't so good, if you're doing well, if you're managing, if you have enough to live on, to even share with others, then that's a good place. So it does depend upon where you live. That has something to do with it. The other one is, how are you living? Now that's a tough one. How are you living? Are you in a hell world right now? I can see that some of you are. I understand. I really do understand. But all of this depends upon your point of view and where you're coming from. If you are living in Afghanistan right now and you're a woman, you're probably experiencing a hell world. Whereas if you're in the island of Hawaii, you're with some great friends and everybody's having a great time and you see the incredible beauty of that island, then you're in a heaven world. Things are wonderful. They're happy. There's no suffering. It's the same world, it's the same earth, but depending on where you're at and who you're associating with, pretty much sets up your experience. And your experiences mold your reality, how you view life. Experiences can corrupt us. A woman who's been raped will have a very difficult time with intimacy. It can be overcome with a great deal of love and compassion, but it does take patience. So we have poverty, we have tragedy, we have bad life experiences. We have all of these things that darken our mind with fear and anger and feeling like a victim. So if you're living in a hell world, it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. So what is enlightenment? Well, we've just described endarkenment, right? Things are dark, it's not so good. About 40 years ago, I just started 30 years ago, so it's been a while. When I first started teaching in this lineage, I took my students to this field on Easter Sunday to watch a sunrise. It was up in Grants Pass, Oregon. And the field was out behind my house. You crossed over a little bridge that went over this creek that ran year round. And there was this meadow. There were no houses there at that time. So we all gathered there before dawn. It was dark outside. And we made our way over that bridge and down a little trail in that meadow. And you'd come up on an object and you think, oh my gosh, that's a snake. Or it seemed like something would hit your foot and it would kind of frighten you a little bit. You'd hear a rustle off into the woods and you think, my gosh, that could be a bear. You heard something up in the tree and it sounded really weird. You didn't know what it was. We were just kind of stumbling around in the dark. And we found this little spot and we stopped and we waited for the sun to come up. It was very dark. Couldn't see anything. And then the sun started to come up. Slowly, the black and grays started to have a little color. And as the sun continued to not yet peek over the horizon in that twilight, you could see quite a bit of things, actually. When the sun came up, things were very clear. That thing that had tried to trip you up wasn't some monster, it was a rock. That thing on the trail you thought was a snake was just a stick. That bear in the woods was really just a rabbit. And that sound in the trees was an owl. You could see it now. There was nothing to be afraid of. Enlightenment. It's hard to understand enlightenment when you're living in the darkness. Things are very scary there. They're kind of black and white, you know, good and bad. That's all you see. But there's more to life than that. There's hope. There's the hope of enlightenment, that you have the ability to finally let go of your superstition and your judgments and to experience an uncommonly fine life. The first thing we do is we start to meditate, because the mind is always wanting to go here and there, go here and there. And until you stop your mind from just focusing on this and focusing on that, focusing on this, and you stop the mind, then you can gain a sense of peace and focus. Instead of being like a sparkler, which is just going off in every direction, it's more like a laser beam. I teach my students the form of meditation that we focus on our heart. This is the center of your being. It's where you set your intention. From the heart, the mouth speaks. So as we focus on the heart, we start to look at our intention. Then we go up to the throat. This is the will. You have intention, but now you have will. Will is the power to make that intention happen. And then we focus on chakra here at the back of the skull, which is the chakra of focus. It's where you focus your energy from your heart and your will. Right here, comes out as words usually. It comes out in your hands, I suppose. But if you turn that focus to the third eye, you experience the beginning of enlightenment. So we go from our heart, making sure that our heart is focused upon the divine. I go to my will, knowing that I am going to will this intention into the divine, and I'm going to go from the divine intention right here. I'm going to take the will and the intent, and I'm going to focus it right up here in the third eye. And as you do that, there's the opportunity for you to stop your thoughts. So this is the meditation practice we do. Heart, we purify our heart. We try to get rid of any negative thoughts or things. Focus upon the divine. Focus on things that are good. Focus on the good times. Letting go of all of the troubles. Setting your will upon divine illumination. Focusing on the divine illumination. Then there's the experience of it. So meditation is the first thing we do. And we should be meditating, a couple of times a day at least, in the morning especially. It's a good way to start the day. It's also a good way to end the day, to just let go of all of the energies you've picked up as you've just walked around this earth. So meditation is very important. Do it a couple of times a day. If you're a beginner, 10, 15 minutes. After you've done it for a couple of weeks, up to 20 minutes. After 6 months or so, you might want to increase it to 30. It's up to you. It's hard to talk about meditation practice on the internet. It's much better to do it in person with someone where you can initiate them. But we'll have to do with this for a while. So meditation is very important. The next is contemplation. And contemplation is looking at inspiring videos, reading books about enlightenment, success, finding peace. There's all kinds of books to contemplate. Contemplation is very important. It gives you something to take the energy from your meditation, put it into something you can do. To read a book, maybe go through a workshop or something. And the third one is prayer. Prayer is when you have an issue that you can't seem to overcome. Maybe it's an anger or a feeling of despair, or it's something that's greater than you are. You just don't know how to handle it. It could be, I don't know, your pet being very sick or something like that. There's a lot of things that happen to us in this life that are very difficult to deal with by ourselves. So we can go to prayer. We can go into our prayer with our issue, and we can seek a divine answer. We can seek peace about it. We may not be able to change it. If it's someone's time to die, then they will die. No matter how much you pray. If it's their time to go, they'll go. So what you do is you pray for their easy transition. You pray for yourself so that you can help accept this and get through this loss, this emotional loss. It could be that you're going through a divorce. It could be anything. We pray for things that we cannot control, and we seek a divine guidance. We seek to turn it all over to spirit, to our higher self, that part of us that has been with us since before the foundations of the earth. Turn it over to that and say, I'm just a human here. I have very limited seeing, very limited hearing. But I know the divine knows the truth. The divine knows the way. And I seek that divine way. I pray that I will align with that, and that people who are around me who are hurting will also find some peace during this situation. So prayer is very important. Meditation, you're not asking for anything in meditation. Prayer is not part of meditation. Don't get them confused. Contemplation is not part of meditation, nor is it part of prayer. They're all three different. And yet they form a three-legged stool, which is much more sturdy than a two-legged or a one-legged stool. So these are three things we use pretty often across the board in almost all religions. Meditate, contemplate, and pray. Pray for those who hurt you. Pray that they will become enlightened. When you start to awaken spiritually, you quit doing nasty things. When you start to awaken, you start noticing how your energy affects others and how others' energy affect you. You notice how the words that you use put energy out. There are certain words that maybe you've used habitually, swear words particularly, that when you say them, it puts a really jarring energy out there. And that's not an energy that brings peace. You start watching what you say. Is what you're saying what you think is funny, but maybe it's not funny at all. Maybe it just is a lack of compassion, a ridicule of someone else. You think it's funny. Watch your words. Watch your language. Watch your actions. Take nothing that isn't freely given. Be honest. As Don Juan said, we are a slave to doing the right thing. Do the right thing. Meditate, contemplate, prayer, and just live as good a life as you can. Do a little bit every day for the planet. Every day I walk my little dog. I pick up after him. But I also pick up other people's dog poop, because why would I want to leave that there for somebody to step in? You say, well, it wasn't my dog. I don't care. Why wouldn't I pick it up? Why wouldn't you not pick up a piece of trash and put it in the garbage container? Why would you walk by and just leave that there? Can you do something to clean up the planet? Yes, you can. Just by picking up garbage. Just by cleaning your own house. By keeping your car clean. It makes a statement. These are just things you do, but they affect your state of mind. And as you start doing the right things, then you'll start seeing the sun approaching the horizon. And where it may not be full enlightenment, you can certainly see quite a bit until full enlightenment comes. So if you're in the middle of the dark night of the soul, where everything that you do seems to be hopeless, if you're feeling like things were just a total waste, I'm standing over here on this little hill and I'm saying, take heart, I can see the sun coming. Just a little longer. Everything is transitory, including your dark night. It's always darkest before the dawn. When spiritual teachers observe one of their students going through the dark night of the soul, which is complete despair, by the way, the teacher on the outside shows, oh, I'm so sorry, but underneath they're grinning, because they know that the dark night of the soul is a precursor to enlightenment. That all of those terrible things you're going through now will lead you into enlightenment. Just hang in here a little bit further. You'll see. So I guess during a time when things are kind of dark for a lot of people, I want to let you know that there is enlightenment. And those things that are terribly frightening to you, the horrible things going on in our borders and in Washington and in the pandemic and in, oh my gosh, it just goes on and on, doesn't it? This is just the darkness. The sun will come up. And those things that frighten us will not frighten us. We'll see the truth. See it now. I do. So with that in mind, I'd like us to meditate to one of my very favorite pieces of music, and it's called Sunrise. And imagine yourself in that meadow where that snake was, where something hit your foot, where you hear ominous sounds in the darkness. The trees are just blackness against the starry sky. And let's wait for the sunrise. Have a good week. Namaste.